Hello dear students of class 5. This is social science. In the previous class we have done chapter 2, that is motions of the earth. Now in the last class we didn't complete the remaining portions, so we are going to continue from there. Okay? However, before we continue, I want to give you a quick revision on what we have learned in the last class. Now, I told you about the different movements of the earth, okay? One was rotation and the other one was revolution, okay? Now here you see is a rotation, that is the earth moves from one place, all right? And it causes day and night, whereas revolution causes different seasons because they move away from the sun. Again, they come closer because they are moving in a circular motion with sun in the middle, and the earth makes a big circle around the sun. Okay, so because of these movements we are able to experience different seasons. Also we experience day and night. Now here from the remaining part we are going to learn about the positions of the earth. So what you see here is the earth have 4 positions, namely, okay, so sometimes the earth comes little closer to the sun, sometimes it is far away, and so on. And because of these positions we have summer season. Why summer season is hot is because that time the earth comes very close to the sun while making the movement. They come closer to the sun, so they experience a bright and a hot warm light. Okay, now when the sun goes away from the sun, they don't receive enough sunlight, so they experience winter seasons. So places those are very far away from the sun, they used to have ice and snow. All the water sources in the areas become ice and snow. All right, so let's go in detail. But students, to know about the positions of the earth, I want you to be very familiar with this lines of latitude. If you remember in the last class in chapter 1, I have explained to you about the important lines of latitude. Okay, so we had 2 lines. One was longitude and the other one was latitude. All right, now here we are going to take the help of these lines of the latitude and know about the positions of the earth. Okay, so here we have the North Pole and the South Pole. We have lines like Arctic Circle, we have Tropic of Cancer, the middle line is known as the equator, then we have Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle. All right, so remember these 2 lines especially, that is the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Also the equator, which is the center and the middle line, which you know by now, right? So the equator is the line that used to divide the earth into 2 parts. Okay, so from the middle line till the North Pole is the northern hemisphere, and from the middle line till the South Pole is the southern hemisphere. Okay, now remember these lines. Also remember the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Now I also want to tell you that whenever the earth is moving, it does not move in a straight line. Okay, sometimes they are tilted, means sometimes the North Pole comes little closer towards the sun. At that time the South Pole moves away from the sun, so they do not receive enough sunlight, whereas sometimes the movement of the earth is in such a way that the South Pole is little towards the sunlight, whereas the North Pole goes away from the sun. Okay, so here you will learn more. Now starting with the first one, that is June 21. All right, so what you see here is the summer solstice. Now you see the lines of the latitude here, right? These are the lines of the latitude. See, we have the Arctic Circle, which is 66.5 degree north, Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degree north, then the middle line, equator, then comes the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degrees south, and the Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree south. So what I told you, the earth moves, right? But sometimes the North Pole is more tilted towards the sun and the South Pole goes away from the sun, right? So sometimes the movement is like that, okay? It's little slanting, all right? Whereas sometimes the earth is straight, where the North Pole stays at its place, the South Pole stays at its place, and the middle one, that is the equator, the lines become straight and they experience a very hot summer, all right? Now let me read out for you. So June 21, that is, by June 21st, the sun shines vertically on the Tropic of Cancer, that is, it is exactly at 23.5 degree north latitude. Now this position is also known as the summer solstice, okay? So at this time, the North Pole is inclined, that means it is facing or folds very close towards the sun, and the South Pole is away from the sun. So it is the longest day of the year and marks the onset of summer. It is summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere. And the days are long and hot in the northern hemisphere. So those areas, whichever is receiving more light, they are experiencing summer season, whereas those areas, they do not experience the sunlight, they are experiencing winter season, okay? So it's just like the day and the night, right? So in the daytime, those areas, whichever are facing the sunlight, they are bright daylight, right? And those areas which are dark, they are experiencing nighttime. So just like that, during the revolution, okay, some areas are experiencing summer season, whereas some areas are experiencing winter season, okay? So look carefully, this is June 21, also known as summer solstice. Now here you see that the North Pole is inclined, that means it is coming very close. That's why in the northern hemisphere, that is from the equator till the North Pole, they have summer season, and from the equator till the South Pole, they are experiencing winter season, okay? So I'm sure by now you know where is the North Pole, which one is the equator. Also, we have very important part of the earth, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. You have to know this, okay, so that you can understand this chapter even better. Now let's go to the next one, that is September 23rd. Now on this day, the earth is straight, right? And during this day, the sun is directly above the equator. So September 23rd, the other name for this day is autumnal equinox. Here, the sun is directly above the equator. On this day, both the hemispheres, that is the northern hemisphere and the southern hemispheres, have equal length of days and nights, and this is known as the autumnal equinox. It is autumn in the northern hemisphere and it is spring in the southern hemisphere. Now here the earth is receiving equal sunlight, right? However, in the northern hemisphere, they are experiencing autumn season, and in the southern hemisphere, they are experiencing winter season, okay? Again, here we come to know that because of the movement of the earth, right? Because the earth is revolving around the sun, also it is rotating at the same time. Because of that, one area of the earth is experiencing autumn season, whereas the other areas are experiencing spring season. However, here we see that none of the part, that is nor the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, are experiencing summer, right? Because they both are receiving equal amount of sunlight from the sun. All right, so one part is autumn and the other one is spring. Now coming to the third one, that is winter solstice. Now during this day, that is December, the position of the earth along near the sun is exactly like this. Okay, so let's go in detail. The sun falls directly on the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees south of latitude. The south pole is inclined towards the sun. Now the south pole is closer to the sun, right? And the north pole is away from the sun. That is, the north pole is going distant from the sunlight. So during this time, it is summer in the southern hemisphere because they are closer to the sun and receiving enough sunlight, and it is winter in the northern hemisphere because they are not receiving enough sunlight and it is making their area cold. Okay, so this day marks the beginning of the winter and is the shortest day of the year. The days are long and hot in the southern hemisphere, and the position of this, because of the position of this earth, it is known as the winter solstice. Okay, so here from this image you see that the southern hemisphere, they are closer to the sun, right? And they are receiving enough sunlight, so they are experiencing summer season. Whereas the countries that are in the North Pole or the northern hemisphere, they are experiencing winter season. Okay, also let me make it clear to you that the North Pole and the South Pole, they are the coldest regions of the world, right? And we also have the Antarctica, that is towards the South Pole. And I'm sure you have heard about Antarctica, right? That in this place, most of the water sources are in the form of ice and snow. Why is it that? Because they don't receive enough sunlight that would melt the water sources. Okay, so here on December 22, it is marking the beginning of the real and extreme cold weather. All right, so it is known as the winter solstice. Okay, and because of the movement of the earth and the position of the earth, we experience summer in one part of the hemisphere, and in one part of the hemisphere they are experiencing winter seasons. All right, now coming to the last one, that is March 21. So on March 21, the position of the earth falls like this. Okay, so during this day, the sun rays, they fall directly over the equator. Now you know where is an equator, right? That is the middle line of the earth. So the day and night of both the hemispheres are of equal length. That is, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere have equal length. Okay, you see that the earth is straight, right? So they are receiving equal light and also it is in equal length. This position of the earth is called the spring, or also known as the vernal equinox. It marks the beginning of the spring season in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere. Okay, now here, if you remember, on one particular position, the northern hemisphere was experiencing autumn season and the southern hemisphere was experiencing spring season, right? Now here we see that it is an opposite now, all right? The season that the southern hemisphere is experiencing is different from the northern hemisphere, okay? So this is March 21. We call it by two names. One is the spring and one is the vernal equinox, okay? You see here, okay? So this is the position of March 21, known as the spring and vernal equinoxes. All right. So let's have some revision time now, okay? Now let's ask ourselves, all right, whenever I'm explaining or whenever I'm asking some question, you also try to set up an answer, okay, by yourself, okay? Now, starting from the beginning, which I've explained to you, I have explained about the movement of the earth, right? So we have two movements, rotation and revolution. Rotation causes day and night, and revolution causes seasons of the year, all right? So we have four important seasons: summer, winter, autumn, and spring. So all these seasons are caused because of the movement of the earth, also known as the motion of the earth, all right? Also, on certain dates, the earth have particular position, and because of this position, we come to know that it is the beginning of summer, winter, autumn, and spring, okay? So on March 21, okay, so on March 21, also known as the spring or the vernal equinoxes, the northern and the southern hemisphere experiences autumn and spring season, okay? Now on December 22, also known as the winter solstice, in one part they experience summer season, whereas on the other side they experience winter season. Then September 22nd, known as the autumnal equinox. Here on this day again, one part of the area, that is northern hemisphere, they experience autumn season, whereas southern hemisphere they experience spring season, all right? And the last position, that was June 21st, also known as the summer solstice, and this day marks the beginning of the summer season, all right? However, though it is summer solstice, one part of the area experiences winter season, whereas some other part of the area experiences summer and very hot seasons. Also, you have to know that the earth is shaped in such a way that the equator comes very close to the sun, right? That is, the people, whoever lives near the equator, I mean the countries that are very close, the equatorial countries, they experience very hot summers, and for them even the winter is warm, all right? They don't experience a very chilling or a very cold winter seasons, okay? So thank you, my dear students. Take care and please watch the video again so you can learn and understand better.